Welcome to BizTV's Beyond the Brand. I'm Kelli Phillips. Today I'm joined by educational visionary Dr. Dianne Olvera. As a former diplomat, Dr. Olvera applies the high-stakes discipline of international relations to the art of human connection. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more of BizTV's Beyond the Brand. Our guest is a former U.S. diplomat turned educational visionary who applies the high-stakes discipline of international relations to the art of human connection. Through her work and book, The Power of Connection, she empowers parents and leaders to trade traditional directives for purposeful dialogue that fosters independence and mutual respect. Please welcome Dr. Dianne Olvera to the show today. And Dr. Olvera, before we get started, I want to give the viewers just a little bit of insight into you. So tell us where you grew up, what was life like before you got into doing what you're doing today?
I grew up in Pennsylvania with a very, very conservative family. Children should be seen and not heard. And if I did respond or ask too many questions, I got soap. Fels NAFTA soap that was very, very juicy, slid behind my front teeth.
Ooh.
And it was not a pleasant experience. So when I left home, I became a stewardess with TWA, and I had no idea of how to really react in public, and I didn't have any interpersonal skills. So one day we were going to the Indianapolis 500, and it was a very rushed trip, and I knocked a man's tooth out with my hip. And I didn't know what to do. I asked my peers, and no one knew what to do. So I ran through first class, flung open the cabin door and said, "Captain, you can't land the airplane right now because I just knocked a man's tooth out and I don't know what to do." And he said, "Well, first go back and pick up all the trays and we'll talk about it later." So luckily we got everything organized. And when everybody got off the airplane, the man included, there was an ambulance at the bottom of the stairs. And the captain said, "Get in." Oh, boy. So I did. And I thought, oh, they're taking me somewhere. I'm probably going to be in jail or whatever. And no, he said, I thought it was so funny what happened that I radioed down and I told the tower what happened. And they said, "Oh, gosh, this girl deserves a ride in the Goodyear blimp." So we did. We had a wonderful ride. But when we came back, all the passengers were on board. And I said, "You're not going to say anything, are you?" And he said, No, don't worry." Well, no, that really didn't happen, because I got halfway down the aisle and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, please be careful, because this young lady takes people's teeth out with her hip." I ran back to the galley and I never came out again. So I learned a lot from my years as a stewardess, and then I married an Argentine and lived in Argentina. We divorced while we were there, and I was working at the American school. And so I met my husband, who was a diplomat. Well, I didn't have my clearance yet, and so I had an opportunity to meet high-ranking people, especially the person who was pretty well responsible for the desaparecidos, the lost ones in Argentina. And I didn't know that he was what his background was really doing. And so I came back and I said, "Oh, he was so much fun. I just love this man." And my husband couldn't say anything until I got my security clearance. And then after he did get it, I got it. He said, "This man is responsible for all these atrocities that are happening." That started me down the road to find out, what is the language of power? Why did this person overwhelm me in such a way that I was willing to join him in anything that he would have wanted me to do. So from Argentina, we went to Mexico, and we were diplomats there. And more reason to learn what I had to learn, and that is treat everyone like a diplomat. Because when you think ahead, every one of my words were scrutinized. Anything I said could be used against me or the United States. Anything that they said, I could be using to help any information that we needed to gather. So when I got back to the States, I wanted to learn more about how does the brain work and why do people think like they do? So I got my first doctorate in bilingual special education and started fighting for students who were in education wrongly placed because of their language or because of their disability. And that wasn't enough. I wanted to find out, cultural differences. So I went on second doctorate that. And that's where I really started looking at how really my work affects people. So we did some brain research on children that had highest order of autism. And we found that when you are not using your words to guide your thoughts, then what happens? You don't make good decisions. You become more impulsive. At least this is what I've been finding from the students I've worked with over the last 40 years. So as I started working with people, I started to think about what are the easiest things that I could teach anyone to be able to help them to work with people in a way that is so subtle, like a diplomat, but yet so powerful that you literally can create change in your own environment. And the first part is understanding your awareness. Just how do you come across? What do you say? Do you look at people when you're talking? When you look at someone, they feel felt. And so then I just chose just basic ideas of how people interact with each other. For example, if you were in an office and you like to know just the bottom line, just tell me what I need to do and let me get it done. You're a generalist. But let's say the person next to you, we'll call him John, loves details. Well, John probably gets on your nerves and you probably get on John's nerves because you don't say enough and you don't go into the details. But yet, if you were the boss and you understood how each of you thought and processed information, imagine what you could create. So you could have let's call her Sue. We could have Sue do the big idea of the project and then have John fill in all the details. Both of them are happy in what they're doing, but together they make a fantastic project. Now imagine that in a classroom. If a teacher understood that this child thinks differently than the other child, then you can change the way you speak with these people so that your work gets done more quickly. So in essence, it's a win-win. The other thing is self-awareness. When I'm finding now, after I wrote this book, that I've been asked by a lot of business people, why can't we even hire your college students? I couldn't understand that. And they said, the reason we can't hire them is because we ask one simple question. I don't want to know about your name or where you're from. Who are you? What can you do? What can you do for this company? And they can't answer. So I went back to my graduate student class and I posed the question. Do you know that no one in that graduate class could answer that question? So now we take it into real world. Why are children having so many emotional issues? Because parents are they call it the gentle parenting. Because when you are gentle parenting, you're taking away their words. You are telling them what to do. Well, in doing that, you're also taking away their power. So when you take away a person's power and they go out into the real world, they have no experience and they don't hear themselves working through problems.
Mm.
Then you end up like me. Hopefully they don't take somebody's tooth out.
Well, I've got lots of other questions, but we need to take a quick break. So stick around. We'll be back with Dr. Dianne Olvera in just a moment. Be sure to scan the QR code on your screen to sign up for BizTV's monthly newsletter, The Biz Beat, where you'll get articles, business news, and columns by BizTV's personalities, all sent directly to your inbox. And we're back with Dr. Dianne Olvera, author of Power of Connection. And Dr. Olvera, you were kind of going through some of the strategies that folks can find in your book and how they can relay them into their own personal lives. Do you want to continue with that?
Sure. Once we learn how other people process information, we need to think about how we come across them. And that is self-awareness. And the fastest way to learn self-awareness is listening to morning talk shows and watching them on TV. You'll see maybe one person will lean in as she's talking to the person that she's interviewing. And at first you may see the person who is receiving the interview kind of pull back, because they're not accustomed to that. But as you see her lean in, look at that person and pay attention to what they're saying and really do active listening, you'll find by the end of the interview that person who was being interviewed will say, "Oh my gosh, I told you more than I really wanted to say," because they felt. Now turn to another interview where it's more controversial. Mm-hmm. Look at their body language. Their arms are crossed. Their body is stiff. And how does your body feel by what you're seeing? Are you tense?
Absolutely.
Now, if this is how you are feeling, imagine how the person who's being interviewed feels. Yeah. So if that's the case, then what do you do to change that? So that's what I do with the book. It is teaching you simple strategies of understanding how people process information. And I give you examples of how you can use it in your own life. And then I give you strategies on how to continue using that throughout your life and throughout your days. What do you do with teenagers? What do you do when your daughter runs out of the car because you keep interrupting every time you tell her something as she's telling you a story about what happened with a friend? You took away her power. So she runs away, locks herself in a room, and then doesn't want to come out. So you start with empathy. And you explain, so I have been there, I have been in your place, and here I am taking away your power. Can we just sit and chat?
Do you even find that with young kids?
Oh, absolutely. You can start at the age of 2. And they will be so angry with you for, "Don't tell me what to do. Leave me alone." And then they run away. But let's say you're going shopping, and the first thing you say is, "How are you going to behave when you go shopping with me?" What did they say? Good. Now, then they get inside the shopping center and they're running around and pulling things off the shelf. You get back in the car and you're furious. But imagine when you look at the kids, they said, "Well, it was good because we had a great time." So you have to make a very common understanding of the word good before you go into shopping. That way, everybody knows the parameters. And if you do that with all of the rules of the house, and you involve the kids in the rules and you write them down. We had a case where the son came into the house and said, "Hey, I'm going out with my friends at 7." And the mother was with her friend, and she said, "Okay, what do you need to do?" He said, "I know, clean my room." He said, "Okay." Her friend said, "That's it?" He goes, "Yeah." So at 6:45, she went in his room. The room was exactly the way he was supposed to have it. It was nice and clean. And as he left, she said, "Thank you for being responsible." Now, that is an attribute. If we start finding people's attributes and subtly pointing them out, they become those words. If he wanted a job the next day and he went in and the person said, "Tell me about yourself," what could he say? "I am responsible and I know how to take control of my life." Done. He got the job.
You make it sound so simple, and I guess reading your book and going through these simple steps, folks can truly turn their lives around and possibly make them better, not only within their own house, but also within businesses. Are you finding that as well?
Absolutely, because people will start to do their work because you indicate you are really good at, or I really enjoy the way you produce these layouts that we're using for our webpage. You have a good eye. And that's all you need to say. And make it subtle, make it easy. And they start to become those words. And they will start to look for better things to do. And they will show you they can even do better and better. But as they're doing all of this work, you're doing less work. You're having less control because now they are empowered to do what needs to be done for the business, because they feel like when you look at them, just looking at them when you talk, it makes them feel like you feel them. And when you become self-aware, you become self-confident. So when you're self-confident, if I'm the boss and I have to tell you something that may be negative you need to improve, because you already know how good you are at some of the other things, we can have these honest, open discussions because you already know that you're good. And so when we talk about maybe the more negative things or things that we need to improve, you don't see it as a slap against your abilities.
You emphasize in your book the power of pause before reacting. Can you explain that and why that's important?
Yes, that's why I coined treat everyone like a diplomat. Because if you, without thinking, you say to maybe this actually happened. A teacher said to a 5th grader, "Now that was a stupid thing to do," in front of some of the kids. I got her in 9th grade, and but she was saying, "That's stupid. My mother's stupid. This book is stupid. Everything's so stupid." When I realized that she had used this word and it became part of her, and we pointed it out, this girl started to cry. And she said, "I have carried this in my heart since I was in 5th grade. I never realized that her one word made me feel stupid for all these years." And so that's why the power of pause helps anyone redefine those words before they become a stigma in that person's life.
How difficult is that for people? I mean, we've always, I think most of us have grown up with think before you speak. How difficult is that to teach someone?
When you think of the beauty rather than the deficit. Isn't it interesting how, and I think this all started in the Industrial Revolution. when I was going for my second doctorate, we did a study on, how language developed in the United States. And think of it, it had to be top down, because if anyone did something along the assembly line that was creative, it could have ruined the whole project. So that's when the bosses started talking to the people, not with. The people would go home and they would replicate that in their families. When they replicate them in the family, it became a generational thing. My mom did it, my dad did it, my grandparents did it. Now I'm going to do it because they scared the bejeebies out of me, and I'm going to do the same to my kids.
Makes perfect sense.
But in this generation, we're way beyond. AI is way beyond all of this. So we need to create a generation that knows how to speak and knows how to define self. So yes, it's hard to think, to talk, but when you know the positive aspects that you're going to receive from this, it will become a habit.
Dr. Dianne Olvera, if you would, give folks the information on where they can find your book.
My website is drdianneolvera.com, and you can get my book on Amazon or any place that sells books. If you go on my website, I have a free download that you can use to see how all this, how you put everything together.
That's perfect. Thanks so much for your time today. We really appreciate it, and continued success to you. Thanks for watching BizTV's Beyond the Brand. Be sure to subscribe to the BizTV YouTube channel, where you'll find full episodes of this show, fresh BizTV content, and a few surprises each week to help you stay inspired.